This video is brought to you by Star Trek Online: Rise of Discovery. Star Trek Online is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game where you create a starship set to explore the galaxy, with over 100 unique locations from the show and characters with voice acting by the actual actors. There is a massive world waiting to be explored, with engaging starship combat within the Star Trek universe. With the new Rise of Discovery expansion launched, there are many iconic locations and characters from the most recent show Star Trek Discovery. Now is the perfect time to get yourself into the game. If you are a fan of Star Trek or enjoy a well put together MMO, this is a space themed MMO that you don't want to miss. You can play today by going to the link in the video's description down below. World of Warcraft is a massive game with thousands of quests, NPCs and locations. There are many secrets and mysteries in the game that have yet to be solved. Some of the mysteries on this list will change the way you think about WoW. So in this video I'm going to be going over 7 unsolved mysteries in WoW. Number 7. Dark Portal Statues. So to start off this list, I believe we should talk about something that has pretty much been in World of Warcraft since its inception, and that is the Dark Portal Statues. To this day, we still do not know who the Dark Portal Statues are. I am of course talking about the 2 statues that stand guard to any Dark Portal that has been in the game. In addition, throughout the world of Azeroth, there's been multiple of these statues constructed, and many people have been wondering what exactly these guys are. Blizzard hasn't actually came out with any explanation. However, the lore behind the Dark Portal and what is likely the creators of these statues is that these were created by the orcs led by Gul'dan. Now Gul'dan was working for Sargeras and actually got the inspiration to invade Azeroth from the Dark Portal. He was the brains behind the operation. However, why did they create these giant statues? Now these statues are these humanoid looking figures that are holding a sword down to the floor, and this body language suggests that it's guarding something. This is kind of an odd choice for Gul'dan to construct, since up to this point he hasn't actually seen a human before, and it kind of begs the question how Gul'dan actually got the inspiration to create these statues, and who are these statues of? Some people have been speculating that this is actually a representation of the Void Lords, something that we haven't seen yet in World of Warcraft before. In terms of World of Warcraft lore, the Void Lords are probably going to be the final boss of World of Warcraft, since they have pretty much the highest power level. Whether or not these mysterious statues are actually Void Lords or not has yet to be seen. Number 6. The Fairy Dragon Portal. So deep into Timmonsville Glades, there is actually a secret zone, or I guess a semi-secret zone, that is called the Whispering Forest. In the Whispering Forest, there is something that caught the curiosity of a lot of WoW players, and that is the Fairy Dragon Circle. After about half an hour, an event will take place in the Mushroom Circle. For about a minute or so, there will be a bunch of fairy dragons that will gather around the circle of mushrooms and will start casting a spell, what looks to be summoning a portal. And then after a minute or two, they just randomly disperse and go about their business. In addition, all of the wildlife around the area gather around the circle and watch the event take place. So it's obviously something of some significance. However, nobody has yet to discover what this portal is for, or even what it is supposed to be. The most common speculation is that this is actually going to be a future expansion, which is probably going to be going to the Emerald Dream. However, this seems kind of unlikely, considering that World of Warcraft developers have already said that they don't really feel like doing the Emerald Dream expansion like what they previously planned to do. This could be the gateway to an upcoming zone that hasn't been launched yet. Multiple years later, and we still don't know what the Fairy Dragon Circle is for. Number 5. Unexplored Continent. So with each new WoW expansion, there is a new continent to explore. This is something that us WoW players have gotten used to, and that we know pretty much every single WoW expansion comes its own new island or continent to explore. The only exception to this is being Cataclysm. However, the Cataclysm expansion was basically just a huge revamp of the old zones. What has gotten a lot of people talking are the in-game models for globes of Azeroth that you can find in various dungeons and places in WoW. For example, in Ulduar, you get to see a globe of Azeroth, and there's some pretty interesting stuff on this globe. There is definitely a landmass at the north and south poles of Azeroth, something that hasn't actually been revealed in game yet. So naturally, there is some speculation a future expansion could involve going to the north and south poles of World of Warcraft's Azeroth. So naturally, some people have been speculating that the north and south pole of Azeroth is going to be places that we can visit in future expansions. Another interesting thing about the globes that you can find in game is that there's a whole side of Azeroth that doesn't actually have anything on it. According to the globes that you can find in Ulduar, you have Kalimdor, Northrend, and the Eastern Kingdoms, and the other side there was just nothing there. According to this globe, the other side of Azeroth is just the sea and there's nothing there. This seems kind of hard to believe considering that the titans that created this globe didn't actually notice that there was Pandaria, which up until that point in Wrath of the Lich King was covered by mist. So the idea of titans getting this wrong and that there's entire continents on the other side of Azeroth's globe yet to be explored is a real possibility. In addition, if you look at Azeroth from a far distance when you're in Argus, you can see that the other side of Azeroth is completely covered in mist and you can't really see what is going on there, which kind of indicates that there is something there. Since it's not just open sea, I'm 99% sure that there'll be another continent that is unexplored and was covered by mist up until this point. It could be the ice caps, or it could be another continent on the other side of Azeroth that we haven't seen yet. Number 4, Dragon Bones. So at the highest point of Kulturas, there is actually something very interesting. If you climb all the way up the highest mountain in Kulturas, you will actually find a skeleton of a dragon. It looks like the skeleton has been defeated by an orc and a human, and it's been there for quite a while. As to why this dragon is here, it's currently unknown. But another thing that begs some questions is that on the actual title screen where you log in to Battle for Azeroth, you can see some dragons way off in the distance. Now most people would have just assumed that these are some kind of eagles or birds. However, if you look closely, the bodies are way too small just to be eagles. The proportions are more similar to what you would see from a drake, so there's a pretty good chance that we will see some dragons in future content for Battle for Azeroth. There is a small possibility that the final boss of this expansion will be a dragon, or that at least there will be an entire raid dedicated to this theme. Number 3, Giant Kodo Bones. So if you travel around the shoreline of Azeroth and you venture off into the fatigue zone, before you die, sometimes you can actually see something way off in the distance. And if you manage to get close enough, you can actually make out that it is actually a giant skeleton. Throughout Azeroth's map, there is a bunch of giant Kodo Bones that is way off in the fatigue line, and it happens more than once. In Vashir, there is a giant Kodo skeleton with a mysterious pearl next to it. And of course, this is way off in the fatigue line where you're not supposed to go, but Blizzard put it there anyway. In Zandalar, there was a similar case, where you can find a giant Kodo skeleton way off in the distance. This would suggest that in the past of Azeroth, there were some giant Kodos that were roaming the land. And it looks like these giant Kodos have all gone extinct, but as you can see, throughout the land, there are these giant bones, and these skeletons are absolutely massive. In this footage, I'm at max view distance and it's barely in shot, which suggests that it's absolutely massive. What is the storyline behind these giant Kodos? That has yet to be discovered. Number 2 on this list is Timmonsville's phylactery. For those of you that played World of Warcraft Classic, you guys will probably know all the rumors that were surrounding the Ashbringer weapon. The Ashbringer weapon was an actual item that was put into the game files, and data miners actually discovered that this was a legendary blade put into the game. However, people found no actual way to find it, and only in Legion WoW did we actually get an updated version of Ashbringer that paladins could use as their artifact weapon. However, Classic WoW had its own version of the Ashbringer that was never obtainable. So naturally, people came up with all kinds of crazy theories as to how to get the Ashbringer, and one of the most popular ones involved Timmonsville's phylactery. Timmonsville's phylactery was a very odd item. It had a super low drop chance, like extremely rare. Like, it was pretty much impossible to get, and it only dropped off one mob. That was the large vile slime that you could find in Western Plaguelands. People came up with so many theories as to what this phylactery is about. However, judging from the name phylactery, this is actually a fantasy word that is used to contain a lich. Similar to Kel'Thuzad's phylactery that you could get after defeating Kel'Thuzad from Naxxramas in Classic WoW, this is another phylactery, but it is apparently Timmonsville's phylactery. Nobody knew at the time who Timmonsville was. However, people speculated that this item was used in a quest to get Ashbringer. To this day, it's unknown why Blizzard put this into the game, and in 2019, we may never know what the Timmonsville's phylactery was actually intended to be for. So number 1 on this list is other planets. So at this point, it's no secret that Azeroth isn't the only planet in this game. In fact, in World of Warcraft's first expansion, we actually went to Outland, then in Legion WoW, we went to Argus, which was its own separate planet, and you could clearly see what Azeroth looked like from a really far distance. and just looking off into the sky you can see a lot of different planets that are yet to be explored. And if you go into Ulduar, you will see a lot of holograms of planets that we haven't yet been to. So it kind of begs the question, what are these planets like? It's definitely not unbelievable for us to explore these planets, considering that interplanetary travel is something that has been part of World of Warcraft for quite a while. And in particular, this planet that you can see here in Ulduar caught my attention. It has a lot of water and its own separate continents. What is this planet that Titans made a hologram of? But for us WoW players, going to a new planet is a very easy way to make a new expansion for Blizzard, and I can see that later down in time, Blizzard will actually create some content surrounding interplanetary travel. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. This is vaulty, signing out.